Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and for the next episode in our Wizards box, in this one we're going to look at the components, making a few of them and just showing what I've got and the ideas for the interior of the box itself. So starting up, I wanted this lovely little glass jar with these beads and the leather wrap. I was like, right, I need something cool to go in there. So my neighbours, they had some of this wadding, which was basically a packing from their pet dog for his food. And I was like, right, well, it's all different colours. It's got a nice brown that runs through it. That's clearly troll fur. So that's what I did. So I've ripped a bit off, sort of split it up so it wasn't all nice and uniformed, and I've popped it into the jar. And that's going to be troll fur or troll hide. Now I've got two of these little glass jars. They were originally for Dungeons and Dragons, and they had a couple of D4s in, and the idea was you pop it open as if it's a potion, roll the D4. So one of those is going to house some magical gems, and the other one will keep as is. And again, this is just cool little jars just to add a bit of narrative and break up the box and fill it up with as much random stuff as we can. So I've got some little stones and other things. I'm looking at, I've got like beads of different sizes, wooden beads, plastic beads, all sorts of things. And I'm just going through now and deciding what is it I want. So for the gems, I'm going to use some of that colour shift paint that you've seen me use before on some of the Pokemon tutorials. So to get that in, I'm just going to paint the base of this, what I believe is a resin pour in the bottom of these jars, with a black gloss paint. And that's just so the colour shift paint will go on. And you'll see me later on, I'll actually tape up the bottom of this jar to get rid of the red. And also makes it look a bit different to the other jar with the red in. Right, so I've taped over the bottom of the jar. Just with the knife now, just cutting in little channels just so it can all fold in on the underside of the jar itself, so it's not in the way. Also, the various other things there you can see on the table. Not all of this I'm going to use, most of it to be honest. I'll even change a few things throughout the video. I'm just going in there making sure all that red is covered up, just so it differentiates it from the other jar. It's got a nice tape band around the bottom just so it looks different. Right, so looking at everything we've got here, different ideas. There's something I want to do with this jar I'm still figuring out at this point. Quite happy with the troll hide. Found a random key from something. I'm not sure what it's for, but it looks cool. It's got quite ornate. And then various other things, these gems and other bits, and part of an old necklace I think it is. Right, and so there's a nice little callback to my Pallette episodes with the original Shoggoth that I did. So I thought, right, I've got the last lump of air dry clay that I need to use up, so I'm going to make a little Shoggoth in a jar. So I'll start off with, there we go, got the tried and tested ball bearings, I've got some wooden beads, trying to do different sized eyes, and I just spent some time now going through, shaping it up, making sure it'll fit in the larger jar, which I think it's like a jam jar or something, and going back and forth and making sure that all this matches. And then this will obviously get painted up and things. Very similar to my original episode, because I wanted to do a nice little homage to when I started this YouTube channel a couple of months back. So yeah, you just see me now just shaping and reshaping. I think I end up getting rid of one of the wooden beads just so it fits in a bit snugger. But it's just going to be a cool little thing. The idea, it's like, you know, it's like a spell component that this wizard would carry, and that he uses parts of it to cast a spell. So just going through now and shaping it. Now you'll see later on as well the inside of this jar, because I wanted to look like a little ecosystem. So I've actually put some of my base ready that I used on the Ark present for Just Our Luck Gaming. On the base of that, I've put some of that in there, so it looks like it lives in there, and it's got a bit of, you know, soil and plant life that it can feed off. And it just adds bags of character to this strange little piece of the Wizards box set. Okay, so looking at what we've got, so I've got a jar of troll fur, which looks really cool. A little jar which I'll add something to. I've got a jar for the gems, just as soon as the colour shift paint's in. I've got the larger jar which is going to be for the little Shoggoth ecosystem. Pouch of gems, that other black pouch there is going to be for coins. Now the 4 pieces of cork that you see there are going to be for runes, which I'll finish in another video because they might go on the base. The strange ornate key, and the skull, which looks like a mask totem, which I'll use. So coming over to actually going to start labelling stuff now. So just using masking tape, popping on a piece that I want onto each bottle and jar, and then just trimming it off with an X-Acto knife, and then writing on the label. Now the nice thing with the masking tape, because it's paper, I can actually go in and weather this with a bit of wash later on. Now you'll see in this jar I've added, it was some gold string that I had randomly lying around, and I've pulled all the threads apart and then put it into the jar itself. And then each of these, I give them a strange name. So this is, I believe, Refined Angel Tears. Sounds like something a wizard would have. And then we go on to the other bottles. So with this bottle, again, same process. Put a piece of masking tape on, just neaten it off with an X-Acto knife to square everything off, and then write all the labels on. And you'll see that I'll go through a lot of these things here. They've changed a little bit from earlier on in the video, but they're all going to be components of the actual box itself. So this one are Astral Gems, because again it's a callback to Dungeons & Dragons that I've played for years, and just thought, right, that'd be a cool little thing to put into the actual box itself. So the troll hide, quite and simple. We already know what this is. The only difference I'll make to this, you'll see later, is I have to trim the little sort of chopstick things down, and I'll probably put more in the jar when it comes to the actual finished product. Otherwise this is exactly as it is there. Yeah, a lot of fun making this. Seemed a bit excessive, I suppose. You know, all this just for a wand that I was bought for my birthday by a good friend. But I thought, no, you know, let's have a bit of fun with this, and it becomes a nice, cool prop, and just something I can have looking around and open it up and be like, oh yeah, that's my wizard's box. And it's good to do. It's just creative. I've struggled recently with trying to get, you know, some creative ideas. I felt a bit stuck with the Pokemon series, which is why I took a break from that and just did a couple of painting things and some claymation. They decided to do this, and this has got my creative spark going again. I haven't forgotten about season 2 and the Pokemon stuff. I will be going back to that. So I've got some polymer clay on order, and I know exactly which is the next Pokemon we're going to make. So that was the jar for the Shoggoth, which when it's all based and painted, and that'll be the Shoggoth larvae. Now this key I found, so the remainder of that gold thread, I thought, right, I'll make a little, again, label for this. In the box, I think I might have it mounted in the lid with the wand, not sure yet. But this, come up with an idea of a name, and I thought, right, the key of remembering. I have no idea why, it's just something that was there and it sounds a bit cool. And again, all of these labels are going to be weathered with some washes because they're paper. And it'll just make everything look a bit dirty and a bit, you know, mucky, as if it's been used for a long time. Right, so onto the internal of the box now. I've got an old paint stand that was made of this crappy laser cut MDF, so I've cut a piece off that fits. And I'm just making sure everything fits inside the actual box now. So you can see there, the troll hide, they're a bit too long. So I'll actually take those out and chop them down. So a bag with some gems, a couple of candles for rituals, the Angel's Tears, the little jar that's going to be for the Astral Gems, a scroll that came with the wand, which I thought was quite cool, so that's going to go in there. That's definitely part of it. And the key and a few other pouches that'll fit in there as well. And the wand itself, what I want is I'm going to mount it somehow on the inside of the lid, so when you open it, that's an empty space that's not going to get used. And then the main compartment in the bottom, I'm going to make some sort of creature out of polymer clay that the wizard, it sounds a bit gross, but takes bits off for his, you know, his potions or whatever. So I want something in there for that. So the troll hides here, just quickly measuring, and it's just an old, I think it's a bamboo skewer, and just trim it down, pop it in, and make sure it fits, and that the lid closes, which it does. That's brilliant. So you can already see there it's kind of coming together. Now the interior of the box isn't painted, neither is that MDF strip, but that's because I'm going to line this with either some cloth or some tissue paper, because I want like a red lining on the inside of the box. And then the key, what I'm thinking, it might be hung up just underneath the wand itself, somewhere like that. So I've got to figure a way of actually getting the wand to sit in the box and where I want it. I've got an idea of what I can use, But yeah, so that's the interior of the box. Obviously it's not finished yet, but it'll get there next couple of days or so. Now for the actual space, so I decided to map out in foil. I've got no idea what this creature's going to be, but just so I've got an idea of how much room and how much space I've got to play with when I make this thing out of polymer clay. So I just made a random shape. In my mind originally I thought, well, maybe some sort of monster's skull or a head with a bit of skeleton, you know, a bit of spine showing. Not sure yet what it's going to be. There was an idea I wrote in the original sketch of like a little mushroom man or something else, but I'm still figuring that out. But this is purely just so I've got a bulk of foil that I can cover in clay and start figuring out what's actually going to go in this part of the box, because this is, along with the wand, this is sort of like the main part, and I want it to show off a little bit. So it's going to be some form of creature, whether it's alive or not I don't know, probably not, knowing me, but we'll go from there. But thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoy this series, and we're going to work on some other things coming up.